We are about to show you something so phenomenal in this industry and often something misunderstood. It's called air. You can't just add fuel to any engine, diesel or gasoline, and not add the correct amount of air to get the right air to fuel ratio to build horsepower. Adding fuel without the proper amount of additional air is burning money.
So we have a 5th gen Cummins, to be exact, a 2020 Cummins here.
This customer, Miles, talked to him on the phone. Apparently he been watching videos about the grid heater failure. There's a stud underneath the grid heater that destroys these engines. In fact, I'm taking a guess here, but I would honestly say that 20% of the engines we tear down has cylinder number 6 piston with impaction on it, you know, the older ones, the ones that got high mileage on them, and they haven't done this. I try to be conservative. If you follow me and you watch me, I don't try to exaggerate stuff too much, except how great my kids are, but that's not an exaggeration. They really are great kids. It's seriously a problem.
So we are going to replace this with the Monster Ram intake, which eliminates that heater grid failure and that nut falling off, getting sucked in, and basically destroying the engine. Bounces around usually on the top of the number 6 piston and causes catastrophic failure. This will help avoid that, but
it eliminates it. It's impossible.
Yeah.
Hey Gail, everybody wants me and you to meet up and get together, and I know we've been trying to do that, so I hope so, because holy camole, man, we're selling these like crazy. I've got these on my store. There's a link here on the video. You can click that link and go to our store. We've got our engine line on there, a bunch of Banks products, fast fuel system products, but you can buy them right off the store. Thanks, everybody. Why don't you tell them some of the other benefits besides the grid heater eliminating that nightmare?
It increases airflow significantly by over 120% of an increase in airflow. As my dad was saying earlier, a lot of these trucks, some people think that adding fuel, just changing tuning, increases power. But you're forgetting an important factor is the amount of air that's coming in. The original factory intake is extremely restrictive, but then look at, this is why they call it the Monster Ram, is because it is a monster.
And you know, you really don't get the idea of how good it is until we show you how bad, you know, the original one is. Because Banks supplies you with a new fuel line, we still have this nice radius inlet here into the engine, and you don't have this dead wall. If you look at the other aftermarket ones, they got that terrible dead wall right there, and it's just like taking air or whatever and just run it into a wall instead of forcing it down to the engine. I mean, this thing it's the best thing on the market, bar none. And then where does that heater element? It goes right in here, doesn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. And it screws in here. We'll get it out of the box here.
To relocate it, everything. This kit comes with it all.
Yeah.
You get a lot of kits that say it's bolt-on, ready to go. How often would you say that's right? Where it was
never,
aftermarket
never.
crap?
You know, honestly, every time I see a performance product and it says bolt-on, I swear I'm like,
no.
Pain is about to happen to me.
So yeah, Banks is really the only thing that is manufactured to work well. Do you pay a little bit more? Yeah. But what in life do you get that is cheap that actually works well? Really nothing.
So this is the heating element to eliminate this grid, and it screws right in here. So if it ever burns up, because you know they're like a toaster element, that thing gets glowing red hot. It's that easy to replace. Just screw that one out, put a new one in, and it doesn't come apart like the factory unit does. We'll show you that here in a minute.
We're going to show you how it gets replaced, start to finish, and then we're going to go for a test drive after and see what kind of difference it makes. The truck is totally stock, so I'm excited to see the difference. So we just removed the intake heater grid. The intake heater is only this portion. The rest of this is just the plate for it. How bad is that, dude?
On a scale of 1 to dirty, 11.
Now that's the carbon that will naturally collect there as it's recirculating it through the EGR system here.
Intake temp sensor.
You can't even see it. So here's the intake. Look how restrictive that is. Now with all the carbon buildup, it's even more restrictive. You're not getting any air through that. Here's the EGR valve. Here's a pipe for the EGR. The factory setup alone is suffocating this engine from the get-go. There's really no difference, right? Just kidding. Massive difference. This is why they call it the monster ram. Look at how significant of airflow you have compared to this little doinky thing. Now the cool thing about Banks, look at the air inlet there. You've got to keep that relatively the same for that throttle body to connect there. But the rest of it, the accurate description is 122% of an increase. There's so much benefits, huge difference. So here's the factory fuel line, and then we've got the Banks fuel line that they've made for this. You can see the difference. This one makes a wider loop because it's got to fit the monster ram. But we're going to install this, getting close. I can feel the horsepower already. Okay, now we've got a pro tip, especially on a lifted truck. We still have to have a stand here. Let the air out of your tires. It lowers the trucks potentially a few inches or more. Makes it a lot easier instead of reaching over or having a huge stand. It's an old trick that Dave taught us. The Monster Ram is machined at the base there for the fuel line. If we were to mount the dipstick tube there, we'd obviously be hitting the bracket. So they've made a relocation bracket so that we're not hitting the heater. It's all set up. This is why we like Banks.
One of the things I want to show you, when these come off, look at how much carbon with the restriction in here. And not only that, but then you add to that this heater grid plate, and you can just imagine how much restriction you're getting from this down to this. Look at all the carbon that can be ingested back into your engine if this thing just hiccups, and you don't want that coming back into your engine. Now here again is that famous grid heater where the bolts come apart and they get sucked into the engine. Another place for restriction, another place for a lot of carbon buildup. And with the Banks, we don't have any of that. And of course, this is the wonderful thing you want. 50 state emission approved. It's a great setup. We just love it. And what we love most about the Banks is how it makes the truck run. Let's go for a drive. Every time I drive anything after I've installed some Banks engineering equipment on it, I'm always amazed. Just in the test drive. Now I know Gales does dyno runs on this to prove his point that the additional airflow maximizes power, but you can feel it on a test drive. And you have the peace of mind that your engine isn't going to suck a heater element nut or bolt and ruin your engine. Yeah, just smooth. Just gets up and goes. I'll tell you, for the cost and the peace of mind and the benefit, you know, as an engine builder, I think it's the best thing you can do. I really do. If you want a performance upgrade for your truck, coupled with a fast fuel system, first thing I'd do if I had a brand new truck, I'd put something that's gonna save me money in the long run. That's the best insurance you can ever put on a diesel. Love it.